he did.
Okay, so I'm going to counter this because there's two things here. One is this actually makes it a bigger story than if he just says we weren't good enough tonight.
Yeah.
No one's needing him to sound the panic alarm. Like everyone understands they're in first place. That's why they do get some grace for performances like this. But when your entire offseason message was, well, it's going to be about accountability. We're bringing in a new coach. It's going to be about accountability. And we've got a new captain. It's going to be about accountability and the leadership structure. And this guy's a pending free agent. I don't need Mitch Marner to say, like, yeah, we stink and we're not good enough right now and blah, blah, blah. It's all bad. Because I don't think that any fan is reading it that way. And so whenever that's kind of presented of like the panic alarm, I'm like, yeah, okay. The panic alarm to me is actually more when you show patterns from your past, which are when you play poorly, you kind of slough it off and go like, oh, well, we're in first place. And for Leaf fans, there's this moment, and it just happens to coincide with Joe Thornton being in town too, which is we got to look at behind the scenes during 2020. The Amazon series gave us a look, and they lose to the Canadians, obviously, at the end of that year. And there's this famous scene where the leadership group is all standing around with Sheldon Keefe, and he's bringing up problems with the team. And Joe Thornton is kind of smirking, and he looks at him and he goes, relax, we're in first place. And people are like, now that is just famous because all the things that Keefe brought up were the reasons why they ended up losing in that series to Montreal. And so to me, it's like you have to be able to identify when you have the bad games and why you played poorly so that you can actually learn how to not do it moving forward in the future. And so it's like if he just says, hey, we stunk tonight, we're going to be better next game, this is like this game just disappears. This isn't anything.
Yeah, and that's a fair assessment. That's like we said, it's been a bit of a pattern going back for how many years now. But the other pattern that I've seen in the last two games is how do you keep a line together when they're -5? Or how do you keep them going together into the next night? Where's the accountability from the coaching staff?
I agree.
As well?
I agree.
Zero accountability. Why is the same PP being flown out there? Why are guys allowed to stay 2 minutes? Why are lines not changing? Why are detail? You know what I mean? So on the one goal, I think it was the Jordan Staal tip goal. You know, you see Matthews, he's not really engaged in the tip, right? Like he's kind of turns the wrong way when there's a button hook in the corner, you know. So after that goal happens, I think it made it 2-2 at the end of the first period. You know, you could kind of see that line's not going. Why not change it up in the second period? You know, maybe give them a spark to get engaged in the details of the game. Why do you keep it they get scored on in the first shift of the game against Vancouver? Why is there no accountability there? And it doesn't mean you have to sit those guys, but why not even just change it up a little bit? And this is the problem we said when the players were out of the lineup, certain players got brought in the lineup, other players had to elevate, other guys' roles got elevated, but then the guys come back and it's like, all right, well, here it is. Let's just let them go out. So I have a little bit of a problem with how he said it, yes, because it's always been, but that to me isn't an issue because I don't know if it's going to change. The problem for me is the accountability on the play side when you're -5 and nothing changes, and then you get scored on the first shift of the next game and nothing changes. That to me is a problem.
See, I just think that they're intertwined. Like I was thinking,
they are intertwined. You're right. But to me, the big piece of it is if you're going to go out for 2 games, nothing's going to change. You're going to go into the interview with nothing changing, so it's stagnant. If you maybe sit a guy for, maybe you sit him for like a couple shifts, right? Then that changes the reflection of the interview at the end of the game. They're not even talking about the game. They're talking, why'd you sit 2 shifts? Or, you know what I mean? So the whole
your coach has told you with action that it isn't in fact good enough.
Yes. So that changes the questioning even of the interviewer at the end of the game. So, but if the accountability on the coaching side isn't going to influence the player, which also can influence how they're being asked questions, it's just back to what we've seen last year of why is things not changing when they should change throughout the lineup, especially in situations like this. Now, I'm not panicking about it, just like you're not panicking about it. They're in first place and they're doing great things, and they've been through a lot this year. But those are little pieces that worry me way more than what an interview is.
Yeah, I totally. And I don't want to misconstrue this. Like, I'm not upset at Marner because he said something that I think is a little dumb. Like, I just do. I just don't think that this is a smart approach. I don't think it's smart for anyone. Like, I've said this story a billion times, but I got in a fight once in high school, and this big outdoor ed teacher named Jeff Teasdale, he broke up the fight. And afterwards, the one kid in the fight looked at him and said, like, "I'm sorry, T." And I was spewing all these excuses. I was like, he came at me, bah, 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 just being a mouth. And he let this guy, Dan, walk away. And he's like, looked at me. He's like, "You know why you're here? You're still with me?" And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Because he took accountability and you didn't. And so I think he gets it and you don't." And I was like, "Got it." And that stuck with me for forever, where I was like, damn, I'm thinking about that. With the accountability stuff, that drives me so crazy is I think this is connected in terms of they have their coach, their teacher, quote unquote, who is not showing them in practice the accountability stuff. Like, the power play has been dreadful all season. Like, it's 18th in the league. They've got 60+% of their salary cap tied up on that group when Morgan Riley's out there, and they can't even threaten, Like, they went 2 power plays there where they didn't even not register a shot. They had 1 shot on 3 power plays on Saturday night. Like, it's just not good enough. And still, it's like the same guys. Nylander, I don't believe has a goal despite with the second power play unit all season long, and he still gets to go out there and try to feast on with the second power play unit. Doesn't end up happening.
Yeah, that's a problem, right?
That's what I mean. And so you've got them connected. It's like chicken and egg, though, where I'm like, wait, is Berube wanting to do it this way? Like, why isn't he being a bit sterner? Is he trying to gain their trust so that he can pull these levers later in the year? But, like, when you see the guys, it's like no one's asking you to panic. No one's asking you to just, like, completely dismiss the successes you've had. All they're asking for is to start to see signs that you are maturing and that accountability culture that you're trying to create is going to manifest in ways where you nip a game like that in the bud, or when you get to the postseason, you're not going to see those same old problems kind of crop up and then afterwards be like, "Oh, well, the other team just played well. That's too bad. I guess it was out of our hands."
Yeah, and I mean, I look back to the Nylander, I think it was a 4.5-minute shift.
Insane.
And you go out there for 2 minutes on the power play, you're not skating, and I love Willie. I'm just saying, you're going out there. But 5-on-5, he's out there for another 2.5 minutes, right? It was at the end, and then he stays out for another 2.5 minutes, and he's not coming off. And then that is almost the starting of the trend of, why can this guy get away with a 4.5-minute shift? And then he can get away with, like you said, feasting on the second power play unit and then not be held accountable. So then all the other star players are like, probably, well, why can't we do this now? Or why can't we hang on for another 30 seconds after our power play hasn't been really getting much going? And then all of a sudden the puck comes out of the zone at a minute, and instead of getting off the ice, they regroup to try to re-enter. And then their second PP, the only way they can score is basically off the rush because they get 15 seconds. So the accountability of that, to me, is that was a problem. And then it just kind of leaks through. And once it keeps leaking through and you think you can get away with more, obviously give an inch, take a mile type of thing, those can create a little bit of problems. And going down the stretch, how are you going to turn that back the other way when you're going to want to sit them for something like that?
So the craziest thing to me at this point is that they still haven't decided to go to 2 power plays, especially given this, like, when those 5 guys have been together this season, the power play has been dreadful. When Austin Matthews was out of the lineup, it's the only time where the Leafs power play has succeeded. I don't think that this is an Austin Matthews issue, but I do think that, like, how many years have you and I been doing these shows? Like, this is like year 3, 4. Was there ever a time where we went an extended stretch where I didn't ask you, like, what's up with the power play? And we talk about Riley swapping him out with God knows what players, right? It's like OEL one year, TJ Brody another year. Like, try a different guy from the point who can walk the line, but who can also fire a shot and make a quick decision. Like, this has been over and over and over again. And so I guess I'm not as, like, do I think the power play looks...
Unlike this year, generally it's never reared its head in the regular season.
No, not to this extent.
In the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's a big difference now is the power play... You have a team in first place. You can start to go to 2 units. You can start to see what works because you don't want it to rear its head in the playoffs. Because if your power play is just, again, throwing out 5 guys over and over again for 2 minutes and you're not going to get these other guys feeling important, coming down the stretch, and then you're getting into the first or second round, and they're now not important. That's the problem. But you're right. It's like we've never really had to talk about the power play too much regular season because they got it done. Unlike this year, but they've also never been in first place.
Mm-hmm. So here's
Kris Versteeg and Francois Beauchemin to Los Angeles Kings, possible deal with Toronto Maple Leafs. In an interesting twist in the NHL trade market, new rumors are emerging about Kris Versteeg and Francois Beauchemin potentially being traded to the Los Angeles Kings. Sources indicate that the Kings, who have been one of the most active teams in recent weeks, are evaluating the possibility of bolstering their defense with Beauchemin, while Versteeg, who brings strong offensive capabilities, could be a key piece in a larger trade. This move becomes even more intriguing considering the Kings' surplus of offensive pieces available for trade, exactly what the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking for to strengthen their roster. It's speculated that with Versteeg included in the deal, the Leafs could be targeting a possible addition like Wayne Simmonds, along with a mid-range draft pick. This move makes sense given Simmonds' struggles this season, as he has yet to find his top form on the ice. To add more drama to the trade talk, there are even whispers that veteran defenseman Tomas Kaberle could be included, opening the door for a potential pursuit of Brayden Schenn. If completed, this move could have a significant impact on reshaping the Leafs lines and adding more depth to the team. Stay tuned for updates to see if these trades come to fruition and how they might shape the future of Toronto and Los Angeles this season. In an interesting twist in the NHL trade market, new rumors are emerging about Kris Versteeg and Francois Beauchemin potentially being traded to the Los Angeles Kings. Sources indicate that the Kings, who have been one of the most active teams in recent weeks, are evaluating the possibility of bolstering their defense with Beauchemin, while Versteeg, who brings strong offensive capabilities, could be a key piece in a larger trade. This move becomes even more intriguing considering the Kings' surplus of offensive pieces available for trade, exactly what the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking for to strengthen their roster. It's speculated that with Versteeg included in the deal, the Leafs could be targeting a possible addition like Wayne Simmonds, along with a mid-range draft pick. This move makes sense given Simmonds' struggles this season, as he has yet to find his top form on the ice. To add more drama to the trade talk, there are even whispers that veteran defenseman Tomas Kaberle could be included, opening the door for a potential pursuit of Brayden Schenn. If completed, this move could have a significant impact on reshaping the Leafs lines and adding more depth to the team. The Kings' situation is complex, as they are in the midst of a transitional period. Their aging roster, which includes a core group that led them to several successful playoff campaigns in the past, has seen some struggles in recent seasons. While there's a clear need for defensive help, Los Angeles may also want to improve their offensive consistency in order to make a deep playoff push. The combination of Beauchemin's defensive reliability and Versteeg's offensive upside could help the Kings balance their lineup. From the Leafs' perspective, this potential deal is about retooling for the future. The team is in a position to compete, but they also need to solidify certain areas on the ice. Adding a player like Wayne Simmonds could provide the grit and scoring touch that the team has been missing. Furthermore, acquiring a mid-range draft pick could help with future team-building efforts, as Toronto looks to remain competitive while still developing young talent. The inclusion of Kaberle in the trade package could be a strategic move for both teams. The veteran defenseman, who has been with the Leafs for a long time, has seen his role diminished in recent seasons. However, his experience and offensive abilities could be a valuable asset for Los Angeles, who could use a steady presence on the blue line to help their younger players develop. The talk surrounding Brayden Schenn's potential involvement in the deal adds an intriguing layer to the negotiations. Schenn, a versatile forward, has shown flashes of brilliance but has been inconsistent at times. If the Leafs are able to land him, it could be a great opportunity for both the player and the team to find success together. Schenn's physicality, two-way game, and leadership could be exactly what the Leafs need to bolster their forward group. While the trade market can be volatile and unpredictable, these rumors suggest that both the Kings and Leafs are preparing for significant changes. For Toronto, this could mark the beginning of a new era, with a focus on adding more experience and depth. For Los Angeles, the trade could be a chance to retool and address some of the weaknesses in their lineup, while still competing for a playoff spot this season. Of course, as with any trade rumors, it's important to remember that these discussions are fluid and can evolve quickly. There are many moving parts in these types of negotiations, and both teams will likely have to weigh their options carefully before making any final decisions. It's also possible that other teams could enter the fray, further complicating the situation. In the coming days, fans of both teams will be watching closely to see if any concrete moves are made. The NHL trade deadline is fast approaching, and teams are scrambling to position themselves for a successful postseason. Whether this rumored deal materializes or not, the possibility of a major trade between the Leafs and Kings will certainly keep fans on edge as the season continues to unfold. The trade talks involving Versteeg, Beauchemin, and potentially Simmons or Schenn highlight the delicate balance that NHL teams must strike between immediate success and long-term growth. Both the Leafs and Kings are trying to find that balance, and this rumored deal could ultimately serve as a